Hello, this is Mark Hubbs with RICHMOND Bullet Molds. Today we're going to be talking about Pietta's copy of the Spiller Burr Confederate Revolver. Stay with us. The Spiller Burr was the second most common Confederate revolver produced during the war. About 1,500 of these were made in a plant in Georgia. It had a bronze frame similar to the Griswold and Gunnison 36 caliber, but was a blatant copy of the Whitney 36 caliber revolver, which was a brand that gave Colt a run for its money in the late 1850s. It was solid frame, similar to the Remington that would become more common later, and used in a unique barrel pin assembly that was later adopted for use on the Riders and Spencers, and also the Ruger Road Army. There's a small screw on the side. With the one turn of that, it will loosen a knob on this side of the frame, which this then can be hand turned about a half-inch turn. I'm going to have to loosen this up even more. And at that point, the combined barrel pin and loading lever assembly can be moved out of the frame. And as you can see, there we go. It comes right out. You see the barrel pin is attached to the loading lever and the loading lever plunger. At that point, the cylinder can be twisted out of the frame, just like a Remington revolver. And it goes back together in the same form. And you can see the back of the cylinder, the engagements and notches look very similar to a Remington. So let's put it back together now. And you'll see I may have to fiddle with it some to get everything lined up. Pin goes back down the center. And as you can see, what I often do, I forget to line up the loading plunger as I go in, and push it all the way in, lock it, and then remember to turn the knob on the other side, and probably also to tighten up the screw on the opposite side of the frame. Then we're back into business. I recently bought this Pietta Spiller Burr revolver at a Civil War show. It was used, but someone did a very good job with it in removing all the Italian markings and aging it. Basically a complete defarb job. I assume it was probably used by a reenactor, but the bore was very good. And I got it for only 90 bucks, so I definitely couldn't complain. The Spiller Burrs made by Pietta have a few problems right outside the box. And the first one is that the loading port is not as big as the original, and it will not take a conical bullet. It can only take a round ball. Now here's the loading port before I fix the problem. You can see it's very narrow. It's not beveled as it should be, and the loading plunger extends down inside to the loading port. It's actually too long. Now here it is compared to an original. You can see it's much taller, or longer I should say, and it's beveled, so it more easily will take a conical ball that can be put into a chamber and then swiveled under the loading lever. Now here is mine after I did some work with a Dremel tool and some emery cloth. You can see the bevel, especially on the top side. That's where it's most important. And I've also shortened the plunger on the loading lever and then re-recessed the nose of that loading lever to accept a conical bullet. Now here you see me test fitting a COLT Cartridge Works bullet. This is one of ours from RICHMOND Bullet Molds. And now with that material taken away, it will swivel easily underneath the loading plunger, and could not do that before I removed that extra metal. Pietta Spiller Burrs are notorious for shooting very high, and mine was no exception. It would shoot about 18 inches or more above my target frame. So I knew I had to do something different if I wanted to get the weapon on target. The culprit is this tiny front sight. It's got to be higher to correct the problem of shooting high. And these little tiny sights are simply pressed into a hole in the top of the barrel, and they can be tapped back out with a hammer and punch. Just go easy. I chose to use 1/8 inch thick brass stock to make a new sight for my revolver. And here I have a bar of that stock, and I've drawn a parallel line about 5/8 of an inch from the end, and that line will be the bottom of the new sight. The hump is the sight itself, and you can make it any shape you choose. I think this will pull from the holster easier. Notice the stem below the line. This is what will go into the hole in the barrel. Put it very close to the front of the sight, as the sight hole on the Spiller Burr is very near the end of the barrel. Also, you want to draw the sight above the line on this piece of stock. That way you'll have a large piece of stock to hold on to when you work on it. Here I used a hacksaw just to cut straight down to the edge of the line, and this will make it easier to cut the radius out later. I used the hacksaw again to cut off those flanges I just made, and then I've used a disc sander to try to smooth out that radius on top of the side. You could use a hand file too. You don't have to use machinery. Next, cut straight across on either end, leaving the little flange on the bottom that we mentioned earlier. That will be the post that's inserted into the hole in the barrel. And here I've removed it from the bar stock, cutting across the bottom of the little post that's at the bottom of the sight. And here's the sight removed completely from the bar stock. And now I'm dressing up the stem using a hand file to get it round as I can. And I need to make the diameter just slightly bigger than the hole that's on top of the barrel. And they may vary, so you need to measure the hole in yours before you decide how big it should be. Mine was about 1/8 of an inch. After securing the revolver barrel in a vise, I then just tapped it into that hole. Very carefully, make sure it's straight when you do so, and it will press inside the hole and expand to a certain extent and seize into the hole. However, I also went ahead and silver soldered it too to make it even more sturdy. And my intent was to leave the sight unpolished until I sighted it in, and then I could clean it up later. I took a file with me to the range. That way, if I was shooting too low, I could remove some of the stock and bring the rounds up. I could also adjust windage just a tiny bit by removing stock on either side of the blade, because it is an 1/8 inch thick. It's quite thick as it is right now. Now here I am popping caps, clearing it out, getting ready to load. Now I noticed that there was one chamber that had trouble going into full cock, and I suppose this was an issue with how the hand interacts with the notches on the rear of the cylinder. There was just one that would give me trouble. Someone suggested I try a competition load of about 15 grains of Pietta powder, and then on top of that about 7 to 8 grains by volume of grits. And here I am using a separate flask that has corn grits in it to pour them in. Then on top of that, a 380 round ball, and that would keep the bullet at the very end of the chamber, so it would not have far to jump to engage the rifling and the forcing cone. And as you'll see, it didn't really pay off for me. And here I'm capping the revolver, and in this case I'm using CCI number 10s. They were a little bit tight, but they didn't fall off until they fired at least. I've used both brands, CCI and Remington. I guess I prefer Remington number 10s like most folks do, but I've had pretty good luck with just about all of them. And I do occasionally get a cap jam, but it doesn't seem to make any difference whether it's CCI or Remington. They're about the same, equal opportunity cap jammers when it comes to that. I'm shooting off the bench here at 25 yards, paper target, and you can see that first round I'm still having trouble on that one chamber getting to full cock easily. Revolver is pleasant to shoot with this light load. The revolver is a little small for my big hands. Some people may enjoy a smaller grip like that. For me, it was a little bit less comfortable than, say, a Remington New Model Army or a COLT Model 1860, but still a nice little gun to shoot. Now here's the results of those first 5 rounds. Sort of disappointing. I think the front sight, the new front sight has done its job, and it's pulled the point of impact down to the middle of the target. However, the grouping was horrible. Next, I shot a cylinder full of 380 round ball, 15 grains of 3F Go-Ax, and between them a felt lubricated wad. And here's a little slow motion action for you. Next, it was a cylinder full of 6 rounds of COLT Cartridge Works conicals, the bullet we sell here at Aeroscon Bullet Molds. 17 grains of 3F, which was the Confederate service charge, and a little bit of my homemade lube over the bullet. The range was crowded. I wasn't able to go down range between these 2 cylinder fulls, so I'll show you a combined target when it's all done. As you can see, this is better than the first cylinder full, but it's nothing to write home about. I think my elevation problem has been cured, but until I can figure out how to make this thing group, I won't be doing much to the front side as far as trying to adjust the windage. And here I am just dressing up the front side a little bit, try to take some of the sharp edges off of it. Like I said, I'm not going to do much to it. I'll clean it up and polish it when I get it home, but I won't really adjust the thickness too much. My intent was to put up some clay pigeons on a target board and see how it would do again with the cylinder full against those clay pigeons. I had 9 and thought I'd shoot and see how many I could get out of 6 rounds, and then you'll see what happens here. We have a cap jam. Yes, the dreaded cap jam, and this one was cataclysmic. Required a trip home to get the caps out of the works. Yeah. So here's the front side after I cleaned it up. After I get back to the range and figure out how to make this thing shoot, I could take some meat off of either side, try to adjust the windage to a certain degree, but right now I'll just leave it as it is. A few weeks later I went back to the range, this time with a set of slick shot nipples installed on the revolver, hoping that would cure the cap jams. I tested it again with 3 different projectiles, starting from right to left, the COLT 36, the Richmond Labs 36, and then a 380 round ball. 17 grain service charge for the conicals and a 20 grain charge for the round ball. This time I used grease over the bullet, and it seemed to improve the accuracy a little bit. I'm no expert shot by any means. That's why I shoot from the bench, so I can give the revolver a fair shake when I evaluate how well it shoots. But I think these 3 projectiles with the grease over the bullet did a little bit better than the last time I went to the range. I think the Spiller Burr gave service pistol reliability and accuracy, but I could never expect this to be a competition target revolver. I was shooting at Birchwood Casey brand Shoot and See targets, which are about 5 inches in diameter, so that will give you a little bit of scale when you see these target results. Like I said, it's service grade, and at 20 yards it would do the job in a military application. It's interesting that, again, the round ball gave the least accuracy of the 3 projectiles that I tried it with. My good friend Steve Sheldon has an excellent video on how to replace the post front sight on a Spiller & Burr, and I'll post the link to that video in the remarks section of this video here. If you enjoyed it, give me a like, subscribe if you would. And visit our website where you can see more information about the bullet molds we sell, including the 36 COLT and the 36 Richmond Labs. Thanks for watching.